The point of this new video series was to use humor as a vehicle through which we review Big Ten football games played on the weekend prior to recording.
Hello, football fans, and welcome to Team Rivalry Big Ten Week 13 weekend preview. It is Rivalry Week, and it is Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving, Mac. How you doing over there?
Happy Thanksgiving. I am good. I am so excited to eat some turkey and some stuffing and some Buckeyes.
Start tryptophaning.
Tripping on what now?
Tryptophaning? Tryptophan. That's what happens to you after eating turkey. That's why you sit on the couch and undo the belt and fall asleep. It's also because people are lazy.
I thought you were tripping on someone's fanny.
Maybe. That does happen. I trip over a lot of people because I'm always stepping on people.
That's rude. Don't do that.
I shouldn't. I really shouldn't. Before we get into our games this week, I want to remind everyone where to find us. We are on teamrivalry.com. Mac, where can they find us on the socials?
If you still have a Twitter, delete it. But if you don't want to delete it, then we're at Rivalry B1G. I lost it for a second there. I'm looking at the notes and I was like, what is that, our handle, or what is that? That's our handle. It's at Rivalry B1G, capital B, capital G, with a capital R way at the beginning. And then you can also find us here on YouTube because you're watching us right now. So give it a like, give it a subscribe, comment on it, and go about your business then.
Excellent. And a big thank you to everybody who has subscribed already. We really do appreciate it. As I said, it is Thanksgiving week. Happy Thanksgiving. This is the last week of the regular season. I know it's hard to believe we're already here. It's like we wait forever for college football to start, and then boom, it's gone like that. It doesn't take very long.
No. And
then we get that 3-week break, and then the bowl games, and it's kind of it's a weird and fun season. This week, however, we are changing our format a little bit. We are only going to cover those games that we feel lead into the championship game, the Big Ten championship game, which means on the East Division, we're going to be covering Michigan and Ohio State because that is the only game that matters at the East. In the West Division, we are going to talk about Nebraska at Iowa and Purdue at Indiana because those two games will decide the West Division. First, whoops. I forgot to change the slide. These are all the games that are going on this week. Just like I said, this is rivalry week. All kinds of trophies. 5 trophy games this week because the game is not a trophy game. It is a rivalry game, but it is a rivalry game without a trophy and really without a name because it's just called the game, but so is every other game.
That's all it needs to be called.
That's all it needs to be called, I guess. It's an historic rivalry. Anyway, that's what we've got going this week. It is, I lost my train of thought. The Illinois Northwestern game is not TBA. I believe that is a 3:30. No, I don't remember. I know it is scheduled though. Not that it matters.
It's 3:30. Yep.
Is it 3:30? All right. Excellent. Well, okay, let's get out of this mess and start talking about picks. We're off to a fantastic start.
So great. All right.
Tell us about the picks, Mac.
Well, they sucked. Just pour gasoline on the fire that is the first 10 minutes of this podcast. So just to start things off with Illinois, Michigan, I don't know that I have to talk about that game very much because, the score kind of says it all there, and that obviously wasn't our expectation. So there's that.
Yeah.
Wisconsin, Nebraska, again, not our expectation, but there's that. Purdue and Northwestern.
we both had them in the 30s. They scored 15.
Jeez. So I think you also put the Northwestern Purdue in score backwards because Purdue scored 17.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Purdue won that game.
So we'll have to.
We got to adjust the picks.
That means that we didn't actually do as bad for that one. We still had a crappy week beyond all comprehension.
It was bad.
It was very, very bad. Yeah, do we want to go into whose game was who called what it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Wisconsin, Nebraska, I believe was my nope. Illinois, Michigan was my worst game. Yep. And then Northwestern and Purdue or no, Wisconsin, Nebraska is going to be your worst game because I think Northwestern and Purdue, we actually were closer.
I think Indiana and Michigan State was my worst game.
Oops. Oh, yeah, you're right. I was looking at the wrong column. Yeah.
Yeah, I was way off on that one.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you blow a 17-point halftime lead, guys.
Man, that was hard to watch.
They were making fun of Michigan for doing it against them last year, and then they go and do it against Indiana. And, you're still not going to a bowl game. That sucks for you.
It also hurts.
Yeah. Ha.
All right. Well, moving on to the overall here. I think I got worse. I was within 200 before. Now I'm back out to 250 something.
50 something. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You've called more games correctly than me, though.
Oh, yeah. I'm one ahead of you now. Yeah. All right.
I feel like that's what we should do for this is whoever calls the most or the least correct results, or like whoever gets the winner the fewest amount of times. Like if you call more games, the winner more games rightly than I do, then the loser, which I guess in this scenario is me,
right,
would take that and add it on to my score total. And then we see who has, the highest or lowest score.
Okay.
And then whoever loses has to buy the other one a 6 or Buffalo Wild Wings or something.
All right, we'll work on that. I got to work on the score predictor too.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready for the trivia question?
All right, bring it on. Let's do it.
Bring it on, the trivia. You might know this one because it's actually been talked about in the past week, but here we are. Mm-hmm. When was the last time Michigan and Ohio State were 11-0 going into the game?
2006, right?
You are correct, sir.
Okay. Yeah. You
ready for the follow-up question?
Oh, boy.
What were they ranked?
Oh, Michigan was number 1. Ohio State was number 2.
Oh, I think it was the other way around.
Really? Because I thought Ohio State won and they just flip-flopped.
No, I think Ohio State was like number 1 the whole season.
Oh. Well, somebody was number 1 and somebody else.
And Michigan worked up to number 2. Well, hold on. I can actually check here real quick if you'd like.
Sure. Yeah. I'd like to know.
Let me see. If I go back to, because I'm pretty sure that, excuse me. I think that we had, well, what I was looking at was, and I actually had one of them missing, but Michigan, yeah, okay. So in 2006, Michigan started out at 14 and gradually worked their way up to number 2. And yeah, they were number 2. Ohio State was number 1. And the game ended 39-42, Ohio State.
Oh, jeez. Close one.
That was the 2006 season. And Michigan then went to the Rose Bowl. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's right, too. Yeah, they went to the Rose Bowl, and they lost to USC, our future Big Ten brothers. And they fell to number 3. USC was actually number 8 even at that point.
Yeesh.
So it was a fantastic season that ended rather dismally with a couple of losses at the end there.
Kind of sounds like 2018.
It does a little bit, yeah.
Ugh.
All right. You ready to get into some football?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's go.
All right, here we go. First game is Nebraska. Nebraska at Iowa. And just as a heads up, this game is not on Saturday. It is on Friday. So if you really want to watch the Nebraska-Iowa game, make sure you're watching TV on Friday when you're all done with your Black Friday shopping. Like, what is that called again? Black Death? No, it's Black Friday shopping. You're all done with your Black Friday shopping. Make sure you watch this game if this is a game, in fact, you want to watch. It is the 55th meeting. Nebraska leads the series 29-20-3, and it is the Heroes Trophy. And let's see, the Heroes Trophy started in 2011. Iowa leads the series 8-3. This game is considered a rivalry mainly because of the proximity of the teams. even though they're about 300 miles apart, they're both on I-80. And when you get out to, that area of the country, this is flyover country. So really, I forgot the town that Iowa is in. Not Iowa, the university. Is it Iowa City?
Iowa City. Yeah. Isn't it?
Okay. And Nebraska University is in Lincoln. There's not a lot between them. So in 2011, they made it a trophy game. And while the trophy is awarded to the winning team, obviously, the trophy itself is meant to represent heroes in the community, which that was kind of cool.
That's so,
nice. It's not just for the school, it's for the whole town.
Cool.
Also in 2017, I believe we had this same issue with Michigan and Ohio State. In 2017, with the division changes, they were going to reschedule this game to a different week, and they were accustomed to having it played right after Thanksgiving. And apparently there was a huge outroar between both schools and fans, and they gave in and said, okay, fine, we'll keep it right after Thanksgiving. So okay, there you go with that.
Did they play it? Did they, before Nebraska joined the Big Ten, did they play after Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
They've played this every year?
Yep. Well, not every year. Because they've only played 55 games.
Yeah.
So they haven't played every year. It's one of those where they played like in the early 1900s and then took like 20 years off and then played another 10 games and that kind of thing.
I'm just kind of surprised that they were that up in arms over a rivalry that's still fairly fresh or new or not.
Well, it's not new. I mean, it's been around for, 100 years.
Okay.
They just haven't played every year.
Okay. All right. I feel it.
All right.
Yeah.
Iowa's favored in this game by 10.5 points. Now we like I said, we picked this game because it leads to the Big Ten championship. So Iowa at 7-4, 5-3 in the conference. Only Iowa and Purdue are 5-3 in the conference, and Iowa has beaten Purdue. So Iowa is really in the driver's seat here for the most part. They have to win, but if they win this game, let's see. If Iowa wins this game, they go to the championship. Even if Purdue wins, I think Iowa would still go because they've beaten Purdue. If they lose and Purdue loses, I have a feeling then they still might go because they beat Purdue. This is where decision-making comes in. Unless that means Illinois or who is the other one?
I think Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yeah. No, Illinois would go because Illinois has the win over Minnesota.
Okay. So this is all the crisscrossing that happens, but basically Iowa is in the driver's seat here. So if they win, they go. So all they have to do is win. Looking at the stats with regard to that, Iowa outperforms Nebraska in almost every way, but we know Iowa's offense likes to take vacations, unscheduled vacations. I read today that Sam Laporta is out for this game, and he is key to the Iowa offense.
Oh, okay.
So my question to you, Mac, is does Iowa win this game?
I think they do. I think that they're still stronger, especially on defense. Not having Sam Laporta, I didn't hear that. So that's crazy. That's not going to be good at all for them. But I mean, they've looked a lot better these last 4 games or so. The win against Wisconsin, I thought, was surprisingly dominant. I know Wisconsin is not very good this year, but honestly, a 24-10 victory looks a lot better for Iowa right now than it probably normally does. So that's really good on them. And I was really surprised to see that they were able to shut down Minnesota so well. I can't remember the exact stat. I'm going to look it up real quick as I'm talking. But Muhammad Abraham, Minnesota's running back, he put up 263 yards of rushing by himself. Now, when you hear that, your first thought is, oh my goodness, they blew out Iowa. No, they only scored 10 points, and Iowa somehow or another only scored 1 touchdown and still beat them. Yeah. So it's just kind of crazy. But it's the turnovers. Minnesota had a couple of turnovers. Nebraska is going to have a couple of turnovers against Iowa too. So it's going to be a fairly dominant defensive performance for the Hawkeyes. And I think that that's what's going to get them into the Big Ten championship. somehow. I can't believe that they're back into this conversation.
Right. Well, the team rivalry top secret score predictor seems pretty straightforward on this one. We've got Iowa 22, Nebraska 9.
Wow. Pretty close to mine. I'm going with a rather unorthodox score prediction for this one. So I'm going to call Iowa 19-12.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see if Iowa gets the win.
I'm calling it now. There will not be a single offensive touchdown scored in this game.
Well, that just wouldn't be their style.
No, I wouldn't.
It's like Michigan in the field goals.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Our next game is Purdue at Indiana, because Purdue is also 5-3. As we said, they are not in the driver's seat because they have the loss to Iowa. However, this is for the old Oaken Bucket, and I'm going to apologize here because we had a schedule change right as we were getting ready to record, so I didn't get a chance to do a lot of research on the old Oaken Bucket. But the one thing I did find out that was kind of funny is that the old Oaken Bucket is considered the most typical Hoosier trophy ever. So as we try to figure out to ask the football question of the ages, what is a Hoosier? You can add to that, it likes buckets. Whatever sense. A Hoosier is, it likes buckets.
All righty. I
there
guess
you
that's
go.
Fine.
Yep. Now, these guys have been playing since October 17th, 1891. These guys, I mean, that's why you've got 126 meetings, because I think they pretty much have played every year since 1891. The old Oaken Bucket was first awarded in 1925, and probably they dumped the Hoosier out and handed it to Indiana. Purdue leads this series 75-42-6, and Purdue is favored by 10.5 points. Purdue and Indiana have been all over the place. Purdue, we call them the Spoilermakers because they keep knocking ranked teams off their feet, taking the wins away from them. Indiana, I mean, they kind of just don't do a whole lot. At least they haven't this season, although they gave Michigan State quite a surprise last weekend. Purdue is logging more wins, obviously, than Indiana, with slightly more consistency. The important question here is, like I said, as Purdue has already lost to Iowa, they need to win against Indiana, and they need Iowa to lose to have a shot at the Big Ten championship. Mac, what do you think is the possibility of all of that happening?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, like I already said, I don't think Iowa's going to lose. So I think Purdue is going to play for bowl positioning here, which that's fine. Okay, like that's good. They've had a relatively good season. I know that they had some expectations after going. I think they lost to Penn State, and then they won a few games in a row and fairly decisively too, if I remember correctly. And so I know that they had some expectations coming into the middle of the season. You know, with those expectations, you can't lose games like what happened with Iowa and what happened with Wisconsin. And then I'm only looking at their last 5, but there was one game in particular where I was like, I don't understand how. I think it was it Minnesota? Syracuse
29-32.
Yeah. You can't lose a game like that. Now, I understand that has nothing to do with the Big Ten, but it was kind of what that game represented. They had a lot of turnovers and basically a fourth quarter meltdown against a Syracuse team that, you know, is fine. They're a good team. Like it's not a huge slight against them or anything like that, but those are the types of games that you have to win if you want to be an elite team, I suppose. The Minnesota win is where I think that Purdue really started to think that maybe they still had a shot at the Big Ten title game. And I thought so too, but it's that loss against Wisconsin, which is just kind of bizarre because again, Wisconsin came out of nowhere for that one, especially offensively. And then Iowa, again, offensively came out of nowhere and Purdue's offense wasn't able to do anything. So these are kind of surprising results for Purdue, just based on the fact that they thought they had a chance at the Big Ten title game. And I think that's a fair or that was a fair assessment. For this particular game, though, they're going to beat Indiana, and they're going to do it because their offense is stronger. I know Indiana figured out something against Michigan State, but I think that Indiana beating Michigan State had more to do with Michigan State forgetting to play a second half and thinking the game was already wrapped up than it did with Indiana really figuring something out. I mean, Indiana's talented. They've got some good talent on their team, but I think Purdue's probably a little bit more talented and a little bit more put together. So I'm erring on the side of Purdue here, but I guess I wouldn't be surprised if Indiana did surprise them too. I wouldn't be surprised if Indiana surprised us.
Well, and I think what we saw in that Indiana-Michigan State game is that Indiana at least 2 or 3 times took advantage of Michigan State's mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You had a couple of tipped balls, I think a blocked punt, and Indiana didn't. Pardon?
I think a blocked field goal too, if I'm not mistaken.
Or blocked field goal. I think that's what I'm thinking of, a blocked field goal. And Indiana capitalized on that. They didn't let those opportunities go away. So I think that becomes critical. I think what you're saying about the non-conference games is interesting too, because since the non-conference games tend to not be big games, losing those games or winning those games is critical. Losing those games can be devastating, I think, to the season.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan won all 3 of their conference games. I mean, decisively is an understatement, but they're saying that since their non-conference games weren't as didn't have as good strength of schedule, that they might not be as helpful to their playoff hopes if they were to lose to Ohio State this weekend.
Yeah.
So the team rivalry top secret score predictor has got this one kind of lopsided. We've got Purdue at 32 and Indiana at 14.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to give just a tad more love to Indiana's offense and a tad more hate to Purdue's offense. I'm going to call Purdue 24-21.
Oh, very close.
Yeah. It'll be a field goal game.
Okay, so now we're going to get into some fast picks. I should have put a banner up there. I apologize that I didn't do that. This should say fast picks right across the top. Boom. Because we're just going to hit these real quick because none of these games have anything to do with the Big Ten or with the West Division. Going to the West, winning the West Division. Wow, man,
winning either division.
I get thinking about something else, and then all of a sudden it's just gone. But yeah, winning the West Division. So none of these games have anything to do with that. No disrespect to these teams, but they just didn't get there. Same thing with the East Division teams. No disrespect to them, but they just didn't get there. So going off the top left there, Rutgers at Maryland, the top secret team rivalry score predictor has this one really lopsided. We got Maryland 42 and Rutgers 7.
Ooh. Wow. Yeah, okay. I've got Maryland 38-20. I think Rutgers is going to score a few more points than that.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah.
All right, going to the right there, Minnesota at Wisconsin. We've got Minnesota 20, Wisconsin 17.
No. Wisconsin's going to win this one 28-14 because their defense is going to step up because Minnesota's offense hasn't been doing very well the last couple of weeks.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Well,
that's an algorithm. I know I gotta tweak it.
Mm-hmm. And they say robots are smarter.
They're idiots, all of them.
Really?
Bottom left, Illinois at Northwestern. Illinois 28, Northwestern 7. I feel like that one's pretty close.
Yeah, all right. So I've got Illinois 31-10. So I hear what you're saying.
Okay, not bad there.
No.
And the bottom right, we have our state teams, Michigan State at Penn State. Michigan State 7, Penn State 45. I'm thinking Michigan State might do a little better than that, but I don't know. Not with the news that came out today.
I don't know that the news that came out today is going to affect them very much.
It might not.
Yeah. But that being said, I think that what's going to happen is they're probably going to score 10 points when it matters and then a touchdown in garbage time. So I'm giving Michigan State 17 points, but I'm giving Penn State 48.
All right.
So Penn State 48-17.
That's true. The Michigan State players have all been suspended already, haven't they? So they
Yeah.
haven't been playing for a couple of weeks.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so it might not make a difference. All right. Now, moving on to the game.
The game.
Our last game, which is actually going to be at noon on Saturday. So it's one of their, well, it's not the first game. That's the game on Friday. Remember, if you want to watch the Friday game, you got to do that.
Watch it on Friday after
Watch it
you're
on
done
Friday.
dying from the Black Death.
Yeah.
Hopefully they got cable in heaven.
This is the 118th meeting between these two teams. Not as old as the other one, but what was that? Not as old as Purdue Indiana, but still a pretty old game. Michigan leads the series 59-52-6. I checked it out. If you went back to 2007 before Rich Rod came in, it was something like 57-41. So Michigan or Ohio State has been creeping up on Michigan quite a bit. It's just called the game. They've never had a trophy for this game. It's just one of those rivalries that has overtaken college football, even when Michigan doesn't play well, even at a time when Ohio State didn't play well. This is the game. This has been a game that's decided the Rose Bowl in the past, and now it's back to deciding the Big Ten championship. Although I do like Harbaugh said yesterday or this week that he said it's this game is like two superheroes going at each other, so maybe they'll call it the superhero game.
That'd be cool.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
What else do we have here? Yeah, like I said, there's no trophy. This is just bragging rights, and those bragging rights are extremely valuable. Ohio State is favored in this game by 7.5 points. Oh, and I almost forgot. I found out what dog means. Remember how Tucker came in and started calling Spartan dogs?
Yeah, okay.
Apparently, and this again was Harbaugh explained that it means a disciplined athlete with grit.
Oh,
which
gotcha.
I think is a bunch of words that they just decided to make an acronym out of, or they made the acronym and then put words to it, kind of like SHIELD from Marvel.
That makes sense.
Anyway, that's what DOG stands for.
I wonder what cigar stands for. Probably loser.
It stands for $95 million. That's what it stands for. So looking at the stats, I put these stats are from ESPN. I probably should have put a tag on there for them, but these are from ESPN. These are the big categories. Now, Ohio State wins in points per game and yards passing, but Michigan wins in points allowed, yards rushing, pass yards allowed, and rush yards allowed. So that tips in Michigan's favor, I think. And honestly, that's why I think Michigan's going to win this game, but I'm not the analyst here. Looking at these stats, looking at both of these teams being 11-0 for the first time since 2006, and Michigan has struggled ever since then. Michigan beat Ohio State last season. Mac, put all your brain power to this one. What do we got here?
Well, I'll tell you. No, I think what this game is going to come down to is, can Michigan get pressure on CJ Stroud enough to where it knocks off their passing game? So I'm just going to pretend right now that Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, Luke Schoonmaker, and then the one lineman, I forget his name, which is just terrible. Sorry, lineman. I'm going to assume that they're all playing. If Michigan's at full strength, I think the way Michigan wins this game is by getting pressure on CJ Stroud, knocking him off balance. He's not as good of a runner as Ohio State quarterbacks of old. So they have a shot at just making their offense a bit one-dimensional because aside from Dylan Hylard, Ohio State's third-string running back from last week, he put up some crazy numbers against Maryland, had a really good game. Aside from him, Mayan Williams and Travion Henderson have, I believe, are both injured, but also haven't exactly been doing very well the past couple of weeks either. So Ohio State's running game is inconsistent. We'll just put it that way. Michigan is also very good at defending against the running game. This is where I think Michigan could potentially excel in this game, is if they stop the running game as well as they usually do. Getting pressure on Stroud will be key if you can force them into some errant throws, get some interceptions, get some turnovers and stuff like that going, Michigan could shut down Ohio State's offense pretty, I'm not going to say easily, but effectively. Michigan's offense, on the other hand, the passing game has struggled these last few weeks. And I really need to see J.J. McCarthy step up in this. Now, I'm going to assume, because Harbaugh's done this before, that Michigan hasn't been opening up the playbook as much as they usually do, like against Ohio State for these bigger games and stuff like that. So maybe there's something that Harbaugh's got up his sleeve that we haven't actually seen yet. I think that might be the case here, which says to me that JJ's probably going to have a relatively decent game. Because also, you think about it, there's nothing to lose for either of these teams. If you win, or it's the last game of the season, so you either win or you're done. So there's no reason that you shouldn't be leaving literally everything you've got on the field at this point. So do whatever you need to win this game. And that's why I think Michigan could potentially come out with the victory here, is because they've got literally nothing to lose. The floor is the Rose Bowl. The ceiling is the national championship. And that's why I think this game comes down to who is going to end up, well, probably having the ball last, but who is going to end up having the most balanced offensive attack. And that's what I've got for you.
And if we're looking at balance as far as passing to rushing, even without the passing game, Michigan has a more balanced approach. As far as, yards passing, yards rushing. Maybe I'm reading that wrong. But yeah, and I haven't heard, they haven't talked about, or haven't heard whether or not Corum's playing. Was Donovan Edwards injured, or is?
I think he wasn't like that injured. They just held him out for caution sake.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Ohio State had oh man, I forgot his name, but there was a key player for Ohio State, but I think he's been out for most of the season.
Trevion Henderson was in a boot last week.
Was that Henderson? Maybe it was. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be. It's going to be an interesting game. I feel like Michigan has the advantage based on looking at the stats. I feel like Michigan has, even though they struggled against a couple of teams, I think they had it. They have the advantage. I don't know how to explain it. I'm not even sure I want to say any more about it. I just want to watch the game, but it's nice that even if they lose, they're looking at a Rose Bowl, so that'll be. It works either way. It's been a great season.
It has, yeah. And I'll just say this, the last thing I'll say about it is, like, I think that I'm really not concerned about this game. I mean, obviously I want Michigan to win, but even if they lose, we're still going to the Rose Bowl. So either way, like, this has been a great season, and it will end a great season, and next season's going to be even better because Michigan's going to have a lot of the same players back. Like, we're not losing a lot of players. And I should probably throw in some props to Ohio State, because they have also had a really amazing season as well.
Yeah.
The way that I see them winning this game is if they can get their third string running back to help out with a more balanced attack on offense, because they've got a great passing game when it's on, but it needs to be on.
Right. And actually, one of the questions I was going to ask you was, get philosophical. What if Michigan loses? How does a fan respond? But I think that's it. It's the Rose Bowl. If Michigan State or if Michigan loses, we go to the Rose Bowl. Be happy.
Plus, you got these two teams are undefeated for the first time in what was it?
2006.
That was since 2006. 14 years.
Yeah. Yep.
This is amazing. This is
18 years.
18 years.
14. You're right. 14. Wait a minute. 16 years.
We got a minute on the clock, buddy.
Okay. The team rivalry top secret score predictor does not agree with us, and I don't know how to feel about this, but it is just an algorithm, and it hasn't been right all that often. Michigan 21, Ohio State 28.
Oh, wow. Okay, interesting. I myself am going to disagree with it, obviously. I think Jake Money is making a field goal in the last minute to win the Heisman and the Big Ten East. Give me Michigan 31-28.
All right. I like that score.
Mm-hmm.
With that, we are working on Zoom time here, and we are almost out of it. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy football this weekend. Try not to get too stressed out about it. Hug your families. Tell them you love them. Be thankful. Mac, take us out.
This is Team Rivalry.